Sunday dinner at my parents' house was the same script every week. My older brother Derek was the golden child with his management consulting career, and I was the disappointing daughter who played with computers. Derek just closed another major client, Dad announced, passing the roast. Pharmatech Industries. 3-year contract worth $500,000. Mom beamed at him, then turned to me with barely concealed disappointment. And Zoe, what are you working on? Still doing that freelance thing from home? I run a software company, I said quietly. We develop cloud infrastructure and automation tools for enterprises. Uncle Bill laughed from across the table. Software company. That's what kids call it when they can't find real work. Derek here has an actual office, actual employees, actual responsibilities. Derek smirked. Must be nice working in pajamas all day, sis. My parents had invited the whole family tonight. Aunts, uncles, Derek's fiancée Madison and her parents. Madison's father owned a regional accounting firm, making them successful people in my parents' worldview. Zoe, your mother and I need to talk to you about Derek's wedding, Dad said. The venue costs increased. We think you should contribute $10,000 to help out. I nearly choked. $10,000. We know that's a lot for someone in your situation, Mom said sympathetically. But Derek contributed to the family vacation fund last year. It's only fair. Pie situation? I repeated carefully. Well, you work from home, Dad explained. No office lease, no real employees. Your expenses are lower. What they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was that my company Vertex Solutions had spent 6 years becoming one of the fastest-growing enterprise software companies in the tech sector. We'd cleared $42 million in profit last year. We had 73 full-time employees across 4 offices. What they really didn't know was that Derek's consulting firm, Prestige Strategy Group, had hit serious financial trouble. A major client lawsuit over botched deliverables. 3 senior partners leaving to start a competing firm. Revenue down 35% in 6 months. And what nobody at this table knew was that my board of directors had approved the acquisition of Prestige Strategy Group 3 days ago. Tomorrow's board meeting would finalize the transition. By Wednesday, Derek would discover his proper career was now owned by my freelance thing. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, then showed them the screen. My personal checking account showed $1.2 million. Mom gasped. Dad's fork clattered onto his plate. That's my operating account, I said calmly. I'll write you a check for $50,000 for the wedding. Consider it a gift. Derek's face went red. What kind of scam are you running? Nobody makes that doing freelance web design. I don't do web design. I run an enterprise software company. Our clients include 6 of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies and 12 major financial institutions. Madison's father, Robert Chin, suddenly went pale. Vertex Solutions? You're Zoe Anderson from Vertex. You know my company? I asked. Know it? My accounting firm uses your automation tools. They've saved us hundreds of hours. I had no idea. He stared at my parents. You didn't know your daughter runs Vertex Solutions? We thought she did websites, Mom said weakly. Vertex is valued at over $300 million, Robert said, stunned. I just read about them in the business journal last week. The table went silent. Derek looked like he'd been slapped. Why didn't you tell us? Dad demanded. I tried, I said simply. 4 years ago at Thanksgiving I explained my startup secured series of funding. You told me to get a job with benefits. 3 years ago at Christmas I mentioned our first Fortune 500 client. You changed the subject to Derek's promotion. 2 years ago I brought up our office expansion. Uncle Bill told me to face reality and find stable employment. You never explained it properly, Mom protested. I explained it exactly how I'm explaining it now, I replied. You weren't interested because it didn't look like Derek's career. Derek found his voice. Even if this is true, that doesn't make you better than me. I've built my career through real business relationships, not tech bubble nonsense. I smiled. Speaking of your career, how is Prestige Strategy Group doing? I heard you lost Pharmatech 2 weeks ago. And 3 senior partners left to start a competing firm. Revenue down 35% this year. Derek's jaw clenched. How do you know that? I make it my business to know about companies in my acquisition pipeline, I said calmly. The words hung in the air. Acquisition pipeline? Dad repeated. I pulled out my tablet and opened the contract documents. Prestige Strategy Group has been struggling for 6 months. Your board approached several buyers. Those deals fell through because your liabilities outweighed your assets. Zoe, what are you saying? Mom whispered. 3 days ago, my board approved the acquisition of Prestige Strategy Group for $12 million. The contracts are signed. Tomorrow's board meeting finalizes the transition. By Wednesday, Prestige becomes a wholly owned subsidiary of Vertex Solutions. Derek shot to his feet. You're lying. I turned my tablet around. His signature was on page 47. He'd signed as CEO on behalf of Prestige's board. You signed these, I said. The acquisition was structured as an arm's-length transaction. You didn't know the buyer was Vertex because that information is disclosed after board approval. You should have received notification this morning. Derek frantically grabbed his phone, scrolling through emails. His face went ashen. There's an urgent email from our CEO. I didn't read it yet. You might want to read it now. He opened it and we watched his face as he read. Madison looked over his shoulder, her eyes widening. This says the acquiring company is Vertex Solutions. Derek read, voice shaking. All employees report to new management. Current leadership will be evaluated for role compatibility. Standard acquisition language, I said. We're keeping most staff. With proper investment and integration with Vertex's client base, Prestige should return to profitability within 18 months. Evaluated. Derek repeated. I'm COO. And we'll evaluate whether you're the right fit for that role going forward. Your performance review is scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. Dad stood slowly. Zoe, surely you can keep Derek in his position? He's your brother. That's not how business works, Dad. Derek will be evaluated based on performance, leadership capabilities and cultural fit. The same as everyone else. You can't do this, Derek said desperately. This is my career. It was your firm, I corrected. Now it's my firm. Prestige's board agreed because you were heading toward bankruptcy. We're saving the company and saving jobs. You humiliated me. Derek exploded. I bought your company because it was a smart strategic acquisition, I said coldly. Prestige has strong client relationships in sectors where Vertex wants to expand. Your consulting expertise complements our technology. It's good business. But I didn't know it was you. Exactly. You signed off on selling without knowing who was buying. That's how desperate Prestige was. You didn't do proper due diligence. Madison spoke quietly. Derek told me everything was fine. Everything wasn't fine, I said. Prestige was hemorrhaging money and clients. Derek's been hiding the extent of the problems from everyone. Robert Chin stared at me with something like awe. This is brilliant strategy. Prestige's consulting relationships combined with Vertex's technology creates a full-service offering. The synergies are substantial. That's exactly our thesis, I confirmed. What happens to me? Derek asked, voice breaking. That depends on your performance review. If you're willing to learn and adapt, there's a place for you. If you can't handle that your little sister is now your boss, we'll negotiate severance. The words hit him like a physical blow. Mom started crying. How could you do this to your brother? Mom, for 6 years I've sat here listening to you praise Derek while dismissing my work as a hobby. You've told me to get a real job like Derek. You've compared me unfavorably to him at every opportunity. We didn't mean, Dad started. You meant exactly what you said, I interrupted. You measured success by traditional markers. Offices, business cards, consulting contracts. Now Derek's proper career has been absorbed by my freelance thing. This is revenge, Derek accused. This is business, I said firmly. I didn't create Prestige's problems. I'm offering a solution. If that hurts your ego, that's your problem. The dinner ended in stunned silence. People left without saying goodbye. Mom hugged me awkwardly. Dad shook my hand like I was a stranger. As I drove home, my phone rang. My CFO, Patricia. Derek Anderson's performance file just came through from Prestige HR, she said. Strong client skills, weak operational management, resistant to feedback. Want me to schedule his review. Thursday at 2, I confirmed. Give him a fair evaluation. You're more generous than I'd be, Patricia said. This isn't about revenge. It's about building a stronger company. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't satisfaction in the validation. My choices, my career, my freelance thing had been right all along. Thursday came. Derek's performance review went better than expected. He showed up professional, expressed willingness to learn, acknowledged his management weaknesses and asked about leadership coaching. Friday evening, Derek called. Can we meet? Over coffee he said what I'd been waiting years to hear. I've been an ass. For years. I looked down on your work because it was different. I felt threatened and tried to diminish your achievements. I appreciate you saying that. I want to make this work, he continued. Not because you're my sister but because what you've built is impressive. I want to be part of it. Then we'll make it work. Based on your performance, not family obligation. I understand. And Zoe? Thank you. For saving my career even though I didn't deserve it. The months that followed weren't easy. Derek struggled with taking direction from younger colleagues. Prestige staff needed time to adjust to Vertex's culture. But slowly it worked. And my parents? They finally started asking questions. Learning about my work. Meeting my team. Understanding what I'd built. Sunday dinners continued but the script had changed. They asked about Vertex's projects. Celebrated our wins. Offered support. I'd proven what I'd always known. Success doesn't require conventional paths. The family disappointment had become the family's most successful member. Not because I'd changed, but because I'd stayed true to my vision. My freelance thing had become an empire. And that empire had just absorbed my brother's proper career. Sometimes the best validation is simply being right.